Hello again, fellow quiet travelers. Before we step onto the boat this morning, may I ask, where are you listening from tonight? Are you tucked in beneath blankets somewhere in the north, where evening falls with a chill and windows glow gold? Or perhaps you're listening while the sun is just beginning to rise, curtains swaying gently, light filtering in like the Nile itself, soft, steady, patient. Wherever you are, I'm so glad you're here. This is not a history of conquest or power. It's a moment. A slow, quiet walk down the river of time. Not as a scholar, not as a pharaoh, but simply as someone who once climbed aboard a wooden boat and let the Nile carry them. Let's begin. With the morning. The air is cool before sunrise, and the sky holds the faintest thread of blue. Not color, not yet, just the idea of day. The boat rests lightly in the water, moored to a weathered dock of stone and sand. It creaks gently in place, as if dreaming of the journey ahead. Its hull is smooth, darkened by years of travel. Nothing about it is grand, but everything about it is enough. Nearby, the reeds shift with the wind. They murmur softly, as if they know secrets but have no need to speak them aloud. The Nile itself is not loud. It is not wild. It simply moves, broad and slow, a steady breath across the land. You stand at the edge of the dock, bundle in hand, watching the mist rise from the surface of the water. It curls and vanishes as if exhaled by the river. The sound is not silence exactly, but stillness. A silence made of water and wood and waiting. A fisherman nearby adjusts his net without urgency. He nods at you, a greeting without words, and then looks back toward the current. Perhaps he, too, has known journeys like this one. Or perhaps the river has always simply been part of his morning. The sun has not yet broken over the eastern bank, but the sky brightens, not in color, but in breath. You feel it in your chest, the way dawn feels like the first full inhale of the day. A rope loosens, a plank lifts, and without a signal, the boat begins to move. Not with speed, not with ceremony, just the quiet surrender to something older than time. You step onto the boat with care, not because it is fragile, but because the moment feels sacred, the way temples do, the way dreams sometimes do, before they're spoken aloud. The deck is made of smooth tamarisk wood, worn soft by countless footsteps. It doesn't creak sharply. Instead, it sighs, a deep, gentle sound, like old breath. Beneath you, the Nile moves, not quickly, not lazily either, just inevitably. The water flows as it always has, as if even time itself had learned to drift here. You place your bundle, simple cloth, wrapped tightly, beside a stack of woven baskets tied with rope. Inside them, dates, dried fish, bread, a flask of water. Enough for a journey. No more than needed. No less. The boatman gives you a nod. He does not ask where you are going. On this river, the going is its own reason. You find your seat. A folded mat tucked between the edge of the boat and a short mast. There's no chair, no cushion, no separation from the wood, just warmth, and the slight pitch of the boat beneath you. It rocks, barely, as it yields to the pull of the current. You can feel it in your bones. That slow movement, not quite motion, more like memory. Your hand trails along the edge of the boat, fingers brushing against the timbers. There are marks here, not carvings, but scars, from cargo, time, people, and the long lean of years. You wonder who else has sat where you are. A merchant? A priest? A farmer taking grain to market? You'll never know. And it doesn't matter. Their weight has passed, but their presence lingers, in the grooves and grain beneath your fingertips. Above you, a canvas sheet rustles in the wind. It's tied loosely, shade for the heat that will come later. Right now, it just flutters, like a soft wing overhead. You lean back, close your eyes for a moment, and feel the boat carrying you. Not fast. Not far. Just forward. The Nile decides the pace. And the boat obeys. So do you. The wind finds you slowly. Not as a gust, but as a gentle hand on your face. Cool and dry, with just a hint of moisture from the reeds. You sit still. And in that stillness, you notice how the river breathes. Not like lungs, but like earth itself. A long, slow inhale as the water gathers beneath you. Then a faint exhale as it drifts away. The boat doesn't resist. It glides, quietly, like a thought you haven't yet said aloud. Each ripple that curls alongside your wooden frame feels purposeful, deliberate, soft against the hull, but not meaningless. The Nile has seen empires, heard the songs of oarsmen long forgotten, carried statues, grain, laughter, laments, but it remembers none of them. It only moves forward. Always forward. You hear a bird overhead. Just once. Then silence again. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that wraps around you like a cloak. A breeze carries the smell of warm earth, papyrus, and distant smoke. Someone is cooking far off on the shore, though you cannot see them. The smell reaches you before the sound does. You breathe in deeply, not because you need air, but because the moment invites it. The kind of breath that fills not just your lungs, but your entire body. You do not check the time. There is no hour here, only the rhythm of water, and the unspoken promise of arrival. The wind shifts again. The canvas above you whispers. The boat leans slightly into the current. And just like that, you've floated farther than you thought. The river breathes. And now, you do too. You are not the only one on this boat. But no one has spoken yet. And that somehow feels right. A woman sits near the stern, her face half covered by a linen shawl. She watches the water like someone listening to a story. Not hurried, not restless, just present. Beside her, a clay jar rests in her lap. Its top is sealed with wax and cord. Perhaps a gift, perhaps a memory. She touches it gently now and then, as if reminding it, or herself, that it's still there, closer to you. A young boy sits cross-legged. He draws shapes in the dust on the deck with a reed. Simple patterns, circles, lines, then wipes them away with the side of his hand. He doesn't look up. He doesn't need to. A trader sits near the front, broad-shouldered, sun-worn. His robes are faded, but carefully mended. Around him are baskets tied tight with twine. You don't know what's inside them. Spices, maybe, or dried fruit, or letters no one else wanted to carry. He catches your eye, not with suspicion, just acknowledgement, then looks back to the river. A dog lies at his feet, curled like a question. Its ears twitch with every splash, but it doesn't lift its head. No one asks who you are. No one asks why you've come, and you don't ask them either. There's an understanding here, the kind that doesn't need words. You are all traveling the same river. That is enough. You turn back toward the horizon. The boat rocks gently. Around you, silence. Not loneliness. Companionship without intrusion. A stillness shared. And you realize something quietly beautiful. You are alone, but not lonely. You don't notice when the dock disappears. Not right away. At first, it's just a feeling that the sounds of land are quieter. The soft bleating of goats fades. The clatter of morning pots. The quiet murmur of early chores. All of it begins to dissolve behind you, like breath on glass. You turn your head and see that the village, if it was ever there, is no longer in sight. Just reeds now, and river, and the great sweep of open space. No one on the boat seems surprised. This is how the Nile takes you. Not all at once, but gently. It loosens your grip on what was familiar, until it no longer matters. The shore still exists, But it is farther now, not just in distance, but in meaning. Children play somewhere unseen. Their laughter carries faintly across the water, but you cannot tell which side of the river it came from. A bird lifts from a low tree, glides for a moment over your boat, and drifts inland again. A messenger who decided not to speak. You watch the line of papyrus thin and bend with the wind. It dances, but you are no longer part of that world. You are water now. The boat makes no sound, but the current has its own language. It hums beneath you. Not a tune, but a knowing. You lean against the wood, close your eyes, and feel the moment unfold. Behind you, land, voices, morning. Ahead, distance, quiet, sun. The shore slips away, and you, for the first time, let it go. There is a kind of silence that isn't empty. It's full of things that don't ask to be heard, but are speaking nonetheless. The Nile speaks this way. It doesn't shout, or call, or whisper. It simply is. And if you're quiet, truly quiet, you begin to understand its language. You hear it in the way water brushes the side of the boat. Not a splash, but a soft shush, like fabric folding over itself. You hear it in the way the current pulls, not fiercely, but with direction, like a gentle hand leading yours across a page you haven't read yet. Sometimes a cluster of reeds rustles from the shallows, and the sound is so delicate, it almost feels imagined. Not noise, but movement, a reminder that even the still things are always in motion. Above you, a bird circles once, then lands far off, its wings cutting briefly through the warm air. You can hear them, just once. Then the sound is gone. There are ripples near the bank. Perhaps a fish. Perhaps a crocodile. You don't know. You don't need to. The language of water isn't made for answers. It's made for listening. You settle deeper into the wood beneath you. Your body sways with the boat, as if it too understands the rhythm of the river. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to hear better. No one speaks. The fellow travelers are quiet, heads resting, eyes half lowered. Even the boatman, with his calloused hands and faded robe, does not disturb this moment. He too is listening, not to passengers, not to wind, but to the water. You breathe in, and it feels as though the Nile is breathing with you. The day is still beginning. The journey has barely started. But already you have heard more than most will hear in a lifetime. Because today, you are listening, without words. At first glance, the Nile seems gentle, a slow-moving ribbon of water, content to drift through the land without hurry. But beneath that surface calm lies something else. Something ancient, something heavy. You feel it not as force, but as presence. The boat does not strain, yet it bows to the current. The way reeds bow to the wind, not out of weakness, but out of understanding. Even the boatman knows. He doesn't fight the river. He leans with it. He listens, then steers. And now you feel it too. The weight of the current isn't physical. Not exactly. It's something sensed. A kind of gravity that doesn't pull you down, but draws you inward, into stillness, into time. You look over the side, and the water beneath is not transparent. It is murky, dark, reflective. It does not invite you to see through it, only to witness it. Occasionally, a piece of driftwood passes, a gnarled branch, or a curl of dried papyrus. Each one seems to float freely, but they all move in the same direction. Everything moves in the same direction, even your thoughts. It's easy now to let go of thinking in straight lines. Your mind moves more like the river, looping, widening, settling into eddies of memory and breath. The sun climbs higher. Its light sparkles on the surface, but it cannot pierce what lies beneath. And that's all right. Some things are not meant to be known, only felt. The Nile does not explain itself. It carries, and carrying, it teaches, not with words, not with reason, just weight, and patience, and motion without resistance. The boat moves, but no one speaks of how. There is no roar of engines, no splash of urgency, only the steady hush of a wooden vessel gliding between wind and oar. Sometimes the sail catches the breeze. A wide linen square, aged and pale, stretched overhead like a soft-winged bird. It flutters once, then fills, quietly leaning into the sky. When the wind is generous, the sail does the work. It hums, and the boat follows, not in haste, but in harmony. And when the wind disappears, as it often does, the oars come out. They are long and smooth, carved by hands long gone, and held now by the boatman and a boy beside him. They do not speak to one another. They do not need to. The oars dip, then rise, dip, then rise, pulling water like breath from the chest of the earth. Not all oarsmen row the same. Some are restless, strong, rhythmic. But here, on this boat, the rowing is different. Each stroke is slow, measured, almost ceremonial. Not for speed, but for direction. The oar enters the water with a soft sound. Not a splash, but a slipping, like someone stepping quietly into a bath that has already been drawn. You watch, eyes half lowered, not thinking of destination, but of the movement itself. There's something soothing in it. This balance between muscle and wind, between what we can guide and what we must accept. The boat shifts under you slightly, a sigh of canvas, a swirl of eddy beneath, then calm again. Even in motion, this journey asks for stillness. Between wind and oar, you move forward, but you never chase the river. You let it carry you, as far as it will, at its own pace. Not all that moves makes noise. Some things pass so gently. They feel more like memory than motion. You lean over the edge of the boat, just slightly, and watch the surface of the Nile. It seems still at first, a pane of bronze glass, lit softly by the midday sun. But then your eyes adjust, and you begin to see ripples, not in waves, but in rings, from a fish just beneath the surface, or a breeze brushing across reeds, somewhere out of sight. They shimmer outward, silent and slow, each one fading gently, leaving no trace of where it began. Your reflection appears, flickering, not sharp, not complete, just a faint outline of a traveler, watching themselves disappear and reappear with every shift of the current. Beneath the boat, shadows drift, long, slow shapes, perhaps rocks, perhaps deep currents, perhaps something older. You cannot tell, and the river doesn't offer answers. A branch floats nearby, dry curled, its edges softened by water. It turns slowly in place, carried just enough to move, but not enough to rush. The light above shifts slightly. A cloud passes, and for a moment, the entire river darkens, then brightens again. Shadows return, soft and cool, layered over the gold of the water like sheer fabric. There is no urgency here, no sharp contrast, just the soft interplay of things that come, linger, and pass. You rest your hand against the wood again, feeling the quiet vibration of the current. The boat creaks once, the canvas above rustles, and still the ripples widen, the shadows deepen, and the water forgets nothing and remembers everything, all at once. There is a moment when you stop looking at the river and begin to wonder what lies beneath it, not in the way of maps or measurements, but in quiet curiosity. the kind that doesn't demand an answer. The surface is soft with sunlight now, but beneath, there is depth. Dark, slow, unknowable. It isn't frightening. It's simply vast. You imagine old coins, dropped by accident or as offering, bits of broken pottery, smoothed by years of drifting, a bracelet maybe, or a carved amulet, long separated from its owner. Or perhaps there is nothing at all, just silt, and time, and the quiet hush of memory, settled into sediment. A fish darts by, only a flicker, a shape in motion. It vanishes before you can follow it. But it was there. You're sure of it. You wonder how many creatures move silently beneath you now. How many eyes see you, without ever being seen. The thought isn't uncomfortable. If anything, it feels like being watched by something ancient. Something that does not judge, only witnesses. A small whirlpool forms beside the boat, spinning softly, then disappearing, like a thought you nearly understood, then lost again. You lie back for a moment, hands folded on your chest, eyes half closed. The water continues, beneath you. The unseen world turns. No announcements, no need for notice, just presence, just depth. You breathe in slowly, and imagine the river breathing too, not with lungs, but with the steady pulse of what lies beneath. It holds the past, it carries the present, and it says nothing at all, because some truths, the deepest ones, don't rise to the surface. They stay beneath, where the current runs slow, and time forgets how to count. The sun is no longer tentative. It has climbed, slowly, gently, until now it rests just above the horizon, casting long golden beams across the surface of the Nile. The air changes first. What was cool and damp is now soft and warm, like a linen sheet warmed by a morning hearth. The boat, too, responds, its timbers growing warmer beneath your hands, its sail catching more light than wind, casting a long, fluttering shadow across the deck. The breeze quiets, and the smell of the river grows richer. Silt and damp papyrus, faint sweetness from distant blossoms, a hint of clay baked into the banks. You lift your head. Your neck feels looser, as if the warmth has unknotted something in you. On both sides of the river, the papyrus grows thick, not wild, not quite tame. It leans into the water as if listening. Their tall green stalks sway gently in the breeze, and their feathered tops shimmer in the light. They are not ornamental. They are life. Shelter for birds, material for scribes, shade for fishermen, and quiet company for all. You spot a white heron standing at the edge, one long leg tucked, its gaze steady, its presence still. It does not move as your boat passes. It simply remains, like it has watched 1,000 boats before you, and will watch 1,000 more. The sun warms your face now, and you let it. You lean into the heat, eyes nearly closed, feeling the day unfold around you. It does not rush. The light does not demand. It just expands. A nearby cluster of bees buzzes lazily over water lilies. Somewhere, someone laughs on the shore. A burst of sound, quickly lost in the breeze. The river glows, not with fire, but with warmth. A light that touches everything, without burning. You are no longer waiting for the day to begin. It already has, and you are in it, moving, drifting, warmed. The papyrus grows thicker now, leaning into the water like listeners. Tall, straight stems rise in gentle clusters, crowned with fans that sway with the wind, but never break. Their shadows fall long and narrow across the river. Dark lines etch softly into the surface. They don't hold steady. They waver and ripple, just like thoughts do, when you're not quite awake, not quite asleep. The water is calm enough now that it begins to reflect with more clarity. Not perfectly, but close. You can see the stalks mirrored below, and your boat. A smudged silhouette trailing a pale sky. Even your own outline appears. If you lean far enough to notice, you stare for a moment, watching the way the reflection moves. Not in sharp lines, but in swells, in distortions, in little shifting fragments of what's real, and what's only seen. It's peaceful, and quietly revealing. The reeds seem to hum, not with sound, but with presence. Their roots deep in the mud, their tops swaying freely. You wonder how many have stood here, in centuries past, watching just as you are now. Priests, fishermen, travelers, perhaps even children, waiting with laughter through the shallows. The reeds brushing their arms, as familiar to them as home. The reflections shimmer. A fish disturbs the surface, a single ripple spreading outward, breaking the perfect mirror, then letting it return. And you think, perhaps that's how thought works too. Stillness, disturbance, stillness again. No need to hold on, no need to chase. The reeds return to quiet sway. The water calms. The reflection comes back. Not the same, but close enough. You lean back again. The sun is warmer now, but not harsh. The kind of warmth that makes you close your eyes. Not from fatigue, but from ease. Far ahead, you see it long before you reach it. Stone rising from the shoreline, not grand in size, not from this distance, but unmistakable in shape. Columns, walls, a place meant not for shelter, but for reverence. A temple, not the kind that looms with power, but one that waits, that watches, that endures. The boat does not turn toward it. It simply passes, slowly, as though bowing in motion alone. The shoreline temple was built for gods, whose names are still spoken, though now in hushed tones, and more often in story than in prayer. Its sandstone glows in the rising sun, not polished, but worn. The carvings, once sharp, now softened by centuries of dust and wind. You can just make out the outline of a falcon, its wings spread, carved into the face of a pillar. Beside it, the faint remains of hieroglyphs. Names, stories, offerings, echoes in stone. And yet, it does not feel abandoned. Even now, birds nest high in its broken roof. A herdsman passes nearby without looking, as though the temple has always been there, part of the land, as natural as any tree or hill. You wonder how many boats have passed the same way, how many travelers felt that same pull, to turn their eyes toward the sacred, without stepping ashore. Not everything needs to be entered. Some places are meant to be observed, respected. The river slows just slightly near the temple. Perhaps the current eases out of habit, or perhaps it simply remembers. Your boat creaks as it drifts by. No one speaks, not even the boy. A silence falls, deeper than before. Not heavy, not reverent, exactly. Just aware. You watch the temple pass, its walls etched by time, its foundations lapped gently by the Nile. And then slowly, it disappears behind you. Not forgotten, simply returned to its place on the shore, waiting for the next boat, the next witness, the next moment of stillness. The sun does not rush. It climbs, steadily, like someone familiar with the path. No effort, no struggle, just presence. Now its warmth deepens, not sharp, not harsh, just enough to stretch across your shoulders, and into the wood beneath your hands, and into the bones of the boat itself. Everything it touches seems to soften. You notice how the colors shift. The pale tan of the riverbank is now gold. The green of the papyrus now carries hints of amber and dust. Even the water gleams more brightly, rippling with long strokes of sunlit color. This is the sun's quiet labor, not to dazzle, not to conquer, but to reveal, slowly, tenderly, what is already there. The boy on the boat stretches his arms, yawns without shame, then curls up beside the dog, and sleeps. Even the oars are still. You feel the warmth settle on your chest, like a blanket without weight. It slows your thoughts, loosens the tightness behind your eyes. You do not want to speak. You do not need to. Time seems to flatten in the light. There is no urgency. There is only now. And now again. The boat drifts. You notice a scar on the deck. A line cut deep into the wood, then worn smooth over time. It catches the sunlight just so. A single glowing thread, in the weave of shadows and grain, and it feels important somehow, though you don't know why. Far off, the call of a bird rings out. Not a cry, just a single note. As if the day needed punctuation. The sun continues its work, but it does not ask for anything in return. It simply gives warmth, light, clarity. The kind of clarity that doesn't come from answers, but from stillness, from noticing, from being exactly where you are. The sun stands higher now, not overhead, not yet, but close. Its light feels fuller, rounder, like a fruit just before ripening. The shadows have shortened. Even the papyrus, once long and spindly on the water, casts only small pools of shade near its roots. The heat arrives slowly, a second presence layered atop the first. But still, it is not fierce, not punishing, only honest. The Nile narrows here, just slightly. Its banks lean closer together, and so you feel more enclosed, not trapped, but held. A cradle of reeds and water and warm wind. Someone stirs behind you. A yawn. The scrape of cloth against wood. Then stillness again. The boat rocks gently. Your body sways with it, as though you are no longer separate from its rhythm. You are passenger. Yes, but also cargo. Also witness. Also part of the river's quiet inventory. Insects hum near the banks. Their sound is thin, barely noticeable, unless you listen with more than ears. Far off, a woman walks with a clay jar on her head. She moves with balance so effortless. You almost don't see her at all, just the jar gliding above the reeds, like a slow floating crown. She disappears behind a bend, and the river says nothing about where she went. The world has grown quieter, even as the day deepens. No calls from animals, no chatter from the passengers, just sun and sky, and the sound of water parting before the bow. You breathe in. The air is warm now, dry, filled with the scent of dust and green things, and the faint sweetness of sunlit wood. You close your eyes, and the world continues, drifting toward noon, without asking anything of you at all. By now, the sun is overhead, not climbing, not preparing, just there, fully. A circle of light and warmth, settled over the Nile like an open eye. And with it comes a different kind of silence. Not the hush of morning, not the breathless stillness before sleep, but the silence of heat. Thick, slow, and deliberate. You begin to hear it, not as sound, but as absence. The birds no longer call. Even the breeze has gone quiet, as if reluctant to move through this stillness. The papyrus stands stiff, its tips barely stirring. The water laps with less rhythm, less voice, just the occasional murmur against the hull. Even the oars remain tucked beside the boatman. No one rows now. There is no need. The river carries you forward, with a patience known only to rivers and time. The heat isn't oppressive. Not here. Not yet. It's a presence. Soft around your skin, settling into your clothing, your hair, the spaces between your thoughts. The passengers shift, not out of discomfort, but in slow acknowledgement of the hour. The boy has retreated beneath a draped cloth, his outline still as sleep. The trader wipes his brow, but does not move from his place near the cargo. The woman with the jar has closed her eyes. None of you speak, not out of weariness, but because heat has its own voice, and it says, "Be still. Let the day speak in warmth, instead of words." You place your hand on the edge of the boat. It's warm now, sun-soaked, but not burning, though it hums faintly beneath your fingertips. A vibration more imagined than felt, as if the boat itself is dreaming. The river narrows a little more. The banks stretch longer, unbroken, repeating in green and gold, like a lullaby with no end. And above it all, the sun remains, steady, silent, listening. You close your eyes too, and the sound of heat wraps around you, like a slow, invisible blanket, pulling you deeper into the quiet of midday. There's a point in every journey when the world begins to stretch, not because of speed, but because of stillness. The farther you drift, the less certain you are where one thing ends and the next begins. The riverbank blurs in the heat, soft and wavering, as though you're not looking at land, but at memory. Sunlit, quiet, a little faded. Patches of dust mark the edge of the reeds, where the soil dries and lightens. There, the green gives way to tan, and the tan, eventually, to gold. In that gold, you sometimes see movement. Not animals, not people, but heat itself. Waves in the air, the slow shimmer of distance. No one mentions it. No one needs to. You all feel it. This deepening quiet that stretches between breath and time. Far off, you spot a goat standing motionless, its head turned toward you, but even it does not move, as if caught in the same still spell as everything else beneath this sun. Dust curls lightly from the far bank, lifted by no breeze. It just rises, hangs, settles again. A long wall of earth runs along the horizon, perhaps the edge of a farmer's field, or the beginning of an unseen village. You don't know. You don't try to guess. Distance has softened your curiosity. You are content to observe, to let the world exist, without needing to understand it all. The farther the journey takes you, the more you learn to let go. The dust floats, the sun watches, and the boat moves on. You feel smaller, but not insignificant, more like a thread, a quiet part of a wide, woven world, stretching toward forever. The sun is high, everything else is still, and in that stillness, you begin to feel something subtle. You are not just observing the land is observing you, not with eyes, not with attention, but with a kind of quiet presence that remembers. The Nile does not forget who passes over it, and the land does not forget who walks beside it. The banks are lined with trees, their branches drooping, their leaves whispering, even when no wind blows. Each tree seems old, older than this boat, older than the village boys who fish beneath them, older even than the stories carved into temple walls. They bend gently, as if bowing to something unseen. Somewhere beyond the reeds, a stone rests, half buried in earth, its edges worn smooth. You can't see its full shape, but it gives the impression of having waited, not for you, but for everything. It is not important what it once was. What matters is that it remains. Every curve of the shoreline, every twist of vine along the bank, seems arranged not by accident, but by quiet memory, as if the land itself knows where things should be, and how they should lean, and when they should rest. The boatman coughs once. It echoes faintly, then nothing. You pass an abandoned water wheel, its spokes broken, its frame eaten by weather, but it still stands, half in shadow, half in sun. A part of you wonders if it once fed an orchard or lifted life into thirsty fields. But the thought fades. It does not ask to be remembered. It simply is. That's how the land watches itself. Not with longing, not with pride, but with patience. Everything around you has seen more than you ever will. And yet it does not speak. It only stands. Still, attentive, enduring. You watch it watching, and in doing so, you begin to feel, not like a traveler passing through, but like a part of the quiet story this place is always telling. You begin to notice them, just past the heat shimmer, faint outlines, shapes not quite formed, hovering where the river bends, and the air thickens with sunlight. At first they seem to move, then you realize it is you who moves, and they remain. What are they? A cluster of palm trees, perhaps, or rooftops just peeking above the bank. Maybe a line of date groves, standing shoulder to shoulder against the open sky. The closer you drift, the less certain you become. The shapes shift, not dramatically, just enough to keep from fully forming. A mirage, or a memory. You ask yourself if they were always there, just beyond sight, watching your approach, or if they appeared only now, as a quiet welcome. The horizon stretches wider in this part of the river. Everything spreads, even your thoughts. You wonder what lies behind those shapes. A small village, perhaps, with courtyards of packed earth, and clay ovens that glow at dusk. Children playing with palm fronds. A woman drawing water from a well, lined with old stone. Or maybe no one lives there anymore. Maybe the shapes are remnants, walls and frames, of lives once lived, now open to wind and sand. And perhaps it doesn't matter. The shapes are enough. Their presence anchors the distance, gives you something, not to chase, but to reach. The boat continues. The sun glows softer now, as if stepping back, just slightly, letting shadow return to the edges of things. The shapes remain ahead, silent, still not fully real, but comforting somehow, like the sight of home. In a dream you've half forgotten, you breathe in slowly. The air tastes dry, but calm, and for now, you are content to drift toward the horizon, without needing it to arrive. There is a moment, just past noon, when the world does not move forward, but also doesn't fall back. It simply holds. You feel it in the boat, the way it rocks, not from current, but from memory. You feel it in the air, thick with sun, and hushed by shade, as if even the heat has stopped to listen. The riverbanks, lined with tall reeds and slow stones, seem to wait, not for something to happen, but for nothing to. The birds have not returned. The breeze has not picked up. No one speaks. Even your thoughts grow slower, fewer. They stretch like linen drying in warm light, long and quiet and without urgency. Somewhere far off, a dog barks, a single note, then nothing. Not an alarm, just a reminder. That sound still exists. The boy sits upright now, legs crossed, looking out at the passing fields, not asking, not fidgeting, just watching. It feels as though everyone and everything has taken one long breath and held it. The sun stays where it is. The sky does not change. The boat glides over water, as smooth as poured oil. Even the insects, once buzzing near the papyrus, seem to rest. This is not stillness. That comes from sleep. It's something deeper, as if the day itself has paused in reverence, not for anything in particular, but for the sheer act of being. You rest your hand on the side of the boat. The wood is warm, but not hot, and it feels alive, like everything else in this moment. Held, balanced, breathing without sound, he appears with no warning, not from the shore, and not from behind, but suddenly beside you, as if the river itself had formed him. A fisherman, alone in a narrow wooden skiff, bare-chested, skin darkened by years of sun, a wide cloth tied loosely around his waist. His hands steady the long pole that guides his boat. As he moves along the edge of the reeds, he does not look toward you, not at first, not out of rudeness, but because he already knows you're there. This part of the river belongs to him, and his silence is not absence. It is presence distilled. You watch as he lifts a net. Slowly, carefully, water drips from the mesh, like threads of glass. The light catches on each droplet as it falls back into the Nile, with quiet rhythm. There is no splash, no exclamation, only repetition. Dip, lift, shake, rest. His boat creaks softly with the movement, but even that sound feels deliberate. He catches nothing this time, and he does not seem to mind. His eyes lift briefly. They meet yours, and for a moment, there is a kind of recognition, not of faces, but of roles. You are passing through. He is always here. The fisherman returns to his task, unbothered by your presence. The boy in your boat sits up straighter, watching him with curiosity, as though he too senses something sacred in the man's stillness. A bird calls from the papyrus, and the fisherman glances toward the sound. Then, almost imperceptibly, he smiles. Not at the bird, not at you, at the river, perhaps, or something he remembered. And then he turns again, guiding his boat with the slow push of the pole, slipping back toward the reeds, and the world he never left. The silence returns, but it is different now, more textured, as if it carries the memory of the man who spoke nothing and said everything. The silence following the fisherman does not last forever. It never does. The boat drifts on. The sun shifts slightly westward, and with it, the air begins to stir. Not with wind exactly, but with suggestion. A ripple here, a stirring in the reeds there. Then, you hear it. A voice. Not near, not loud, but unmistakable. It drifts from the shore, carried over the water, like breath through silk. A child laughing, then another, and then a faint call from a mother, too far away to hear the words, but not the tone. It isn't urgent, just familiar, the sound of daily life. Unaware of being observed, you listen without leaning. You let the voices pass, as they are, echoes of people you will never meet, in a place you will soon leave. There's something beautiful about that. How you can be part of a moment, without needing to hold it. How you can receive something, without claiming it. The boy in your boat turns his head. His eyes search the shore. But he doesn't ask questions. He just listens. Farther along, you hear a flute. Or maybe it's just the wind, threading through reeds, in just the right way. Whatever it is, it carries feeling. Melancholy, perhaps, or memory. You close your eyes, and imagine the lives behind those voices. A woman sweeping a courtyard, pausing to watch birds rise from the trees. A young man hauling baskets from a boat, singing softly to himself. An elder sitting beneath a fig tree, telling a story to no one in particular. None of them know you are here. None of them try to reach you. And still, their voices find you. Brief and gentle visitors, on the air, not demanding to be understood, only noticed. The wind shifts, the voices fade, and the boat moves forward. as quietly as before. But now, the silence carries company. It happens gently. So gently. You almost miss it. The old woman who has sat still for hours reaches into a small cloth bundle beside her on the deck. Her movements are slow, but sure, hands that know ritual. Even if they no longer name it. She unwraps a handful of dried petals. Jasmine, maybe? Or something else fragrant. Once fresh. Without a word, she leans over the edge of the boat and lets them go. They scatter across the water, caught briefly in sunlight, before they begin to float. Small islands of white and gold upon the Nile. No one asks why. No one needs to. An offering doesn't have to explain itself. It doesn't need witness. It just needs intention. Perhaps it's for someone lost, a loved one, a memory, a god, or perhaps it's just for the river. A way of saying thank you for carrying her this far. The petals drift alongside the boat, some caught in small eddies, some pulled gently forward. The current is kind to them. It accepts the gift, and you feel, for a moment, that this river is a listener, not just to prayer, but to quiet actions, to the language of hands, and the patience of age, and the care it takes to let go of something beautiful without needing it to stay. The boy watches the petals with wide, unblinking eyes. Then, without a word, he picks a small reed from the bundle near his feet and drops it into the water too. It's not a proper offering. It's not fragrant or sacred, but it joins the others without hesitation. And somehow, that seems enough. You sit in silence as the gifts float on, carried into distance, disappearing not with drama, but with grace. Ahead on the riverbank, a movement, slow, deliberate. Figures walking in line, heads bowed, each carrying something. A jar, a cloth, a bundle of reeds. One holds a palm frond, another a vessel of smoke, its faint ribbon curling into the sun. A procession, not grand, not loud, just present. You're too far to hear their footsteps, but the rhythm of their bodies says enough. This is not travel. It is ceremony. They move as though the earth itself told them when to take each step. Their garments are light, linen, earth-colored, fluttering softly in the heat. No banners, no music, only motion. In the center walks a boy. His hands are folded, his eyes downcast. He looks neither afraid nor proud, only quiet, as if something old has passed into him. For a little while, the boat does not stop. No one calls out, but all who sit aboard, even the sleeping dog, seem to watch, not because they're curious, but because the moment feels borrowed, like being allowed to witness a page from a book, never meant to be read aloud. You wonder where the procession is going. To a shrine? A grave? A grove hidden just beyond sight? But you don't ask. You don't even imagine, because this moment isn't meant to be solved, only seen, only remembered. As your boat glides past, the last figure in the line turns slightly. A woman with a bundle of flowers held against her chest. Her eyes meet yours for half a second, and in them, you see no surprise, only recognition, as if she already knew you would be here, watching, passing, vanishing. Then she turns, and the line continues, fading slowly between the reeds, until the river takes them from view. The river flows, but you begin to sense you are not the only one who has drifted through this hour. There are echoes here, not sounds, not footsteps or voices, but impressions, traces, as if the Nile has held every life that ever brushed against it. and still remembers the shape of each one. You look to the banks, and they seem unchanged from stories told generations ago. You imagine a girl with a clay pot, balancing water and laughter as she runs between trees, an old man fishing alone with a net he tied himself during the long winter, a priest carving prayers into stone as reeds swayed behind him. None of them are here, but you feel them, not as ghosts, not as memories, but as quiet companions in the folds of the present. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the boat beneath you could be any boat. The year could be any year. You could be one of them, just another traveler whose story touched the water and moved on. The passengers sit without words, each lost in their own thoughts, or perhaps in someone else's. Even the boatman seems stiller now, less like a guide, more like a witness. Time does not stop, but it stretches here, folding past and present into one gentle shape. The papyrus rustles, the oars creak, the sun softens by a few degrees, and still, you drift past the echoes of other lives, past the fragments of forgotten prayers, past the knowledge that even this moment will one day become an echo too. But for now, you are here, and so are they. You don't notice it at first, but something shifts. The air grows softer, the light warmer, not in heat, but in hue. Where before the sun stood high and white, now it leans, just slightly, casting longer shadows across the boat, the water, the slow curve of the riverbanks. It is still daylight, but the day no longer leads. It lingers. The brightness from above now tilts to the west. You feel it on your left shoulder, a softer heat, a farewell warmth. The color of the papyrus darkens. Their green, once fresh and sharp, is now tinted with gold and gray. The sky begins to blush, not all at once, but as if it remembers something tender, and cannot help but show it. The water reflects this shift. What was blue becomes amber, then something between bronze and shadow. The dog lifts its head and yawns. The boy stirs, but doesn't speak. No one does, because somehow, you all feel it. This gentle undoing of the day, a moment that asks for nothing, only that you notice it, that you allow it to pass, in the quiet way it arrived. Overhead, a single bird crosses the sky, wings wide, flight low, heading somewhere familiar, somewhere final for the night. The sound of insects returns, subtle, steady, the first whispers of the evening choir. The boatman shifts in his place, not to turn the vessel, not to hurry the pace, only to lean where the light now falls. And you breathe a little deeper, because now the light is no longer something you move under. It moves around you, folding you in, softening the edges, marking the moment when day becomes something else. Not yet night, but no longer morning. A quiet middle, a soft descent. The light changes gently, and in its gentleness, you begin to let go. As the light changes, so too does the river. It hasn't stopped flowing. Of course not. But it moves differently now, with less urgency, less sound. The ripples grow small and smooth, like breath that slows just before sleep. The soft slap of water against the boat's side becomes rhythmic, then quieter still. You begin to notice the silence between the sounds, how the river speaks less, but says more. The reeds along the bank stand taller, their tips darkening in the folding light. Even they seem to hush, swaying just enough to suggest presence, but not to perform. You dip your fingers into the water, half curious, half grateful. It feels cooler now. Not cold, just refreshed. As though the sun's long watch is easing, and the Nile is breathing again. Far in the distance, a frog croaks. Then another. The sound is low, soft, like a voice that doesn't need to carry. The kind of voice the earth listens to. On the boat, the passengers stir only slightly. The boy has curled near the dog. The trader watches the horizon, as if expecting something, though he does not say what. The old woman holds her shawl a little closer, but keeps her gaze on the water. The boatman hums. It's not a tune, just sound, a low thread, woven into the air, like smoke or shadow. You realize then, the river isn't silent. It's whispering, in its own way, in its own rhythm, not with words, but with the hush of slowing water, the hush of distant wings, the hush of reeds returning to stillness. It does not say goodbye to the day. It simply lowers its voice, to let the night begin speaking. And so you listen, not with your ears, but with your whole self. You are a guest on the river, and it has chosen now to speak in softness. As the light continues to soften, you begin to notice them, not suddenly, but gradually, as if they had always been there, waiting to be seen. Small villages, tucked into the arms of the riverbank, where the land folds inward, and the trees grow close. They don't announce themselves. No walls, no towers, just homes, simple, square, softened by years and wind and dust. Their color matches the earth, pale ochre, faded clay, shadows of sun-baked stone, as if each house was shaped, not only from mud, but from the patience of generations. You see movement, but nothing rushed. A woman kneeling beside a low fire, tending bread. 2 children chasing a goat. Along a worn path, an elder sitting quietly near a doorframe, watching the river, without needing to name what he sees. The smoke from cooking fires drifts upward in slow spirals, scented with cumin, ashes, and the memory of onions. No one calls out, no one waves, but you feel their presence, like the warmth of a woven blanket. Familiar, even if it's not your own. Lanterns begin to appear, not all at once, but as if lit by a single quiet thought. Passed from home to home, their glow is golden, not bright, enough to light a doorway, to guide feet on a path, but never enough to disturb the dusk. You pass these villages slowly, the boat easing through the water, without effort, without need. You wonder what stories are being told tonight, what meals are shared, what silences are held, between people who do not need words. And you know, as you drift by, that you are not part of these stories. Not really, but for one breath, you are close enough to feel them. These quiet, enduring lives that shape the river's edge, as surely as the current itself. You watch until the houses grow smaller, until the glow fades into trees, until only the sound of frogs and fireflies tells you the village was ever there at all. Above the river, the sky begins to change, not suddenly, but like a breath drawn in and held. The blue, once pale and stretched thin by the sun, deepens to something softer, a color between dusk and dream. And in this deepening, the sky begins to open. First, a single star, then 2, then a quiet scattering, as if someone had sifted silver dust across a darkened cloth. The boat drifts in silence. No one speaks. Even the boy, who had been humming softly, is still now, head tilted back, eyes wide. The sky above is vast, not in its height, but in its hush. It doesn't overwhelm you. It cradles you. You begin to feel as though you are floating through it, not beneath it, A thin crescent moon emerges, sharp and calm. It hangs like a thought not yet spoken, and for a while, the river, the boat, the passengers, all seem wrapped in the same quiet grace. This is not the brilliance of noon, or the triumph of sunrise. This is something else. The kind of light that expects nothing. The kind of beauty that doesn't ask to be noticed. And still, you do. Because how could you not? Every shape softens. Every sound becomes part of a larger rhythm. Frogs croak gently. The water laps against the hull, like a lullaby with no words. And the sky, so open, so endless, stretches its hands over the world. Not to take anything, not to change anything, only to hold. You look at the others. No one meets your gaze. They are each watching their own piece of sky. And somehow, this shared solitude feels closer than conversation. The stars begin to multiply. The moon leans toward them, and the darkness grows tender. Above you, the sky holds everything. And for now, you let it hold you too. Now the light is gone, not hidden, but given over, gently, completely. The river no longer glows. It breathes, a long, slow breath that folds the day inward, like cloth being drawn across a sleeping child. The water turns to shadow, still moving, still alive, but deeper now, quieter. The boat doesn't slow, but it feels slower. Time stretches. The lantern at the front is lit. Its flame is not strong. It flickers more than it shines. And that's enough. It casts a soft circle across the faces aboard. A cheek, a shoulder, a glint of eye. No one talks. Even the boy has gone still. This part of the river belongs to silence. You hear things more clearly now. The soft click of the oar's wooden shaft. The tiny splash of fish beneath the surface. The long, distant cry of something winged, moving far overhead. And underneath it all, a rhythm. The current. Not rushing, not stalling, just carrying. You realize that the river has always done this, even when it sang, or shimmered, or whispered in reeds. It was still carrying. And now, in darkness, you feel it most of all. The motion is steady. The stars above do not blink. The night wraps around you, like something ancient and kind. You lean back, not to sleep, not yet, but to rest into the journey, to become part of it, without effort, without thought. The Nile carries the boat carries you, and the night carries it all. By now, true night has come, not the gentle twilight of before, not the half-light of early evening, but a deeper stillness, a velvet dark, thick and whole. The lantern at the bow glows faintly, but it doesn't light the river, not really. It simply reminds you that you're still here, still moving. Beyond that circle of glow, the water becomes ink. The banks are no longer lines. They are shapes, felt more than seen, and still the boat drifts on. This is the hour when the mind begins to dream even while awake. The shadows become stories. The wind becomes voice. The stars above, more numerous now than ever, seem to listen. You begin to notice things you never did before. A flicker near the shoreline. Was it a torchlight? Or just a firefly wandering too far from the reeds? A shimmer on the water. Just reflection. Or something watching from below? You glance at the others. No one seems afraid. No one speaks of spirits or omens. But you can feel it. The hush. The reverence. This is not fear. It is awareness. The same quiet one keeps in a temple, or beneath ancient trees. You think of the old stories. How river gods once dwelled here. How ferrymen spoke to ghosts. How unseen hands guided boats through the trickiest bends. Maybe those tales were never meant as warnings. Maybe they were simply reminders that the night has its own watchers and its own light. Lamps that do not burn, eyes that do not blink. The boy curls beside the old woman. She wraps a shawl around his shoulders. The trader rests his chin on his chest, half asleep, half listening to dreams. And you sit very still, not because you must, but because stillness feels like the only right response to this hour. The stars shimmer, the water moves, and unseen things watch over it all. The boy sleeps now, his breathing soft and even, head resting in the crook of the old woman's arm. She too has dozed off, her chin gently tilted downward, her shawl rising and falling with each breath. The dog lies curled beneath a low bench. The trader's hand dangles loosely from his lap, his chest rising with the slow rhythm of exhaustion. But one remains awake, the boatman. He doesn't move often, but he does not rest. His eyes remain open, not wide, not alert, but patient, like someone listening for something only he can hear. The pole rests at his side now. There's no need to steer. The river knows the way. Yet still, he stays upright, watchful. His face is unreadable in the dim light. Lined, weather-worn, neither young nor old. His silhouette flickers gently in the glow of the lantern, like a carving that might vanish if you blink too long. You wonder how many nights he's watched the Nile like this. How many dreams he's ferried without having his own. Does he see things others don't? Do the shadows speak to him differently? He looks not at the passengers, but at the water, sometimes at the sky, and once, briefly, at the horizon, as though checking to see if the world is still there. You think of asking him something, but the thought passes. Words feel unnecessary now, too heavy for an hour made of hush. There's comfort, though, in knowing he is there, the one who doesn't sleep, the one who watches, so the others don't have to. He isn't guarding, he isn't guiding, he is simply present, and somehow, that's enough. Because on a night like this, when the river carries not just people, but dreams, and stories, and unspoken memories, it helps to know someone is awake, not to explain, not to understand, only to witness. You're not asleep, not yet, but you're no longer fully awake either. You sit still, but you've lost track of how long. Your fingers rest on your lap, your shoulders loose, your eyes half closed. The sounds around you blur, the soft lapping of the water, the creak of wood, the gentle rhythm of someone else's breath. Even your own thoughts have begun to loosen. You think briefly about the silk traders you passed earlier. Were they real or remembered? You think of the procession near the reeds, the woman with the bundle of flowers. Did she look at you? Or did you only imagine it? These thoughts come and go, like passing lanterns in fog. You do not follow them. You only notice. And as you float in this liminal space, between wakefulness and wonder, you begin to feel it. A kind of stillness that doesn't ask you to choose. You don't need to sleep. You don't need to stay alert. You are simply here. The boat moves as gently as ever. The current flows, and you are carried. And in this in-between space, the world becomes something softer. The stars above seem lower now, closer, like fruit hanging just within reach. You imagine touching one. How cold it might be, how long it might echo. Somewhere on the shore, an owl calls. Its voice is not eerie, just old, as if it has asked the same question for 1,000 years and expects no answer. You smile faintly, You don't know why. You just do. Because in this quiet state, not quite dreaming, not quite present, everything feels allowed. You remember the name of a place you've never been. You picture the face of someone who doesn't exist. And it feels okay. Because this moment isn't meant for clarity. It's meant for drifting. Between here and there. Between now and not yet. Between wakefulness and wonder. The Nile flows. It always has. And now, as night gathers close, and all things grow quieter, you begin to wonder, what does the river remember? Not just of this day, or this journey, but of everything. It has moved for centuries, carried silt and sandalwood, silk and salt, stone and story. It has known the soles of countless feet, kings and fishermen, pilgrims, mothers, merchants, wanderers. It has cooled battles, fed cities, buried secrets in its bends. It has heard weeping, chanting, laughter, all of it. And it remembers, not with words, but with shape, and silence, and motion. The river remembers the steps of dancers, from villages long returned to dust. It remembers a carved idol once lowered from a temple, and how it rocked as it sank slowly into the dark. It remembers the rhythm of animals crossing at dawn, camels, oxen, birds wheeling low over still morning water. It remembers when the stars above were once named aloud by men lying in boats, just like this, perhaps even here. And tonight, it remembers you too. It knows the shape of your boat, the balance of your weight, the subtle difference in how you exhale when you are thinking and when you are letting go. You do not leave a mark on the river, not when you can see, but still, it carries your passage. The water forgets nothing. It simply doesn't remind you. It moves, always forward, always with grace, holding history beneath its surface, the way a tree holds rings, layered, quiet, full of time. You sit in silence. You do not disturb the moment, because something ancient is near, and the best thing to do, when the river remembers, is to listen. The night is whole now, unbroken, unhurried, and everything the day held, light, sound, motion, has softened into stillness. This is the hour when nothing tries to be more than what it is. The sky is no longer performing. The stars shine without spectacle. They simply exist, calm and countless. The river does not glimmer. It flows, quiet as breath, dark as velvet. It carries no need for destination. The boat is no longer a vessel. It is a cradle. Its wood groans gently now and then, reminding you that it's still awake. Even as you float between worlds, you do not know the time. You do not care. The others are asleep, wrapped in shawls, leaning against one another, held by dreams they will not recall. Even the boatman rests now, not with eyes closed, but with the peace of someone who knows. The river will carry what he cannot. And you feel it. Not just the quiet, but the fullness of it. How it stretches, not with emptiness, but with presence. This night is not blank. It is rich. It holds the scent of cool water and distant smoke. It holds the weight of your eyelids, growing heavier with every slow blink. It holds the sound of reeds brushing gently against one another, like whispers in a language you once knew in childhood, but forgot the words for. It holds all of you, the tiredness in your bones, the thoughts you've let go, the peace you didn't know you were carrying, and you realize this night holds everything, not because it must, but because it can, and you, too, are held. without question, without effort, without needing to be more than a small being, adrift on a great, ancient river, beneath a sky that asks nothing of you but to rest. So you do, or maybe you already have, and the boat continues on into the deep hours where the world remakes itself in dreams. This is the deepest part of night, the hour without name, when even the wind seems to sleep. There is no moon now, only stars, thin and patient, scattered across the sky like old seeds sown into midnight. The river is more than silent. It is still, not because it has stopped, but because it no longer needs to show its motion. It is moving the way thought moves, in the moments just before sleep. Slow, sure, unseen, the boat glides as if suspended. It doesn't seem to touch the water. It feels like something imagined. You have drifted far from words, from worries, even from your own name. There is only sensation now. The hush of night air, the rhythm of your breath, the soft weight of drowsiness pulling gently at your temples. This is the hour when the world forgets itself, just briefly, and remakes the sky in stillness. You hear something faint. A splash? A breeze through reeds? Or was it part of your dream? At this hour, the difference is small. Dream and reality are two sides of the same slow river. The others still sleep. All of them. Their silence joins the night. You're the only one awake. But you don't feel alone. The darkness feels like company now. The stars like distant watchers. The boat like a memory you haven't had yet. And even though you know, the light will return soon, though the edge of morning waits just beyond the bend, you don't reach for it. Not yet. This moment, this hour before the light, is not something to hurry through. It's a resting place, a breath between chapters. You let yourself stay in it, not to hold on, but to be still, while it lasts. Because soon, the birds will stir, the sky will pale, the colors will rise again. But not yet. This is the hour, before the light returns, and you, adrift and at peace, float gently within it. It happens slowly, so slowly, that it might not seem like change at all. But it is. The still air that cradled the boat through the long dark hours begins to stir, just slightly. A breath, a shift. You feel it on your cheek, cooler than before, and coming not from the water, but from the land. A new direction. The night is still whole. The stars have not faded. The river still glides, like a thought suspended in silence. But something is moving. The papyrus by the shore rustles. Not enough to call attention, but enough to remind you that even stillness changes. The dog lifts its head. It doesn't bark, or stretch, or stir the others. It just listens, as if it remembers this wind, and knows what comes next. A bird calls once, in the distance, not loudly, just a single note, like a question asked, before anyone is ready to answer. And then, quiet again. The sky remains dark, but it feels thinner, less like a blanket, more like a veil, one that might lift. Soon, you draw the shawl a little tighter around your shoulders, not because you're cold, but because the world is beginning to shift, and there's comfort in holding on to the last still moment before it changes. The boatman stirs. He doesn't speak. He doesn't even rise. But you see his fingers move slightly along the grain of the oar, as if he, too, has heard the new wind's whisper. Nothing is rushing. Nothing is loud. But the air carries a promise now, of light, of motion, of day returning. It is not yet morning, but morning is near enough to send its messenger, and the first to arrive is the wind. You notice it slowly. At first, it's not color. Not yet. Just a softening. The blackness of the sky fades into something less certain. A dark blue, like ink left too long in water. You blink, but the stars haven't gone. They're still there. Just quieter now. Less sharp. As if they're preparing to step gently off stage. The river reflects none of this yet. It's still a long ribbon of shadow. A mirror for the fading stars. But above, the sky begins to shift. Not like a curtain being pulled. More like fabric being dyed. A thread at a time. Dark to charcoal. Charcoal to blue. Blue to something faintly pale. As if the air itself is thinking about light. Birdsong begins again. Tentative, scattered. A warble from a tree hidden in reeds. A chirp. Then silence again. Nature testing its voice. In the hush before certainty. You sit up a little straighter. Not from alertness. Not from urgency. But in response. Something in you recognizes the moment. The edge of change. The grace of becoming. And so does the boat. Its boards creak more often now. The water seems to speak again. A hush against the hull. Nudging gently. The sky is not bright. No gold. No rose. Not yet. Just the soft breath. That comes before waking. Like the quiet moment. When someone you love begins to stir beside you. And for a few seconds, you simply watch. As sleep releases its hold. That's what the sky is doing now. Stirring. Stretching. Beginning to wake. You exhale. The sound is soft. But in this hour, even your breath feels like part of the turning world. There's no flash. No flare. No trumpet of morning. The light doesn't declare itself. It arrives. Like breath after sleep. Gentle. Familiar. Steady. A light without fire. You begin to see again. Not everything. Not sharply. But edges return. The silhouette of the trader's shoulders. The round curve of the basket. Near the dog's feet. The soft angle of the sleeping boy's cheek. The lantern's glow fades into irrelevance. It's still burning. But you no longer need it. Now the sky has taken over. It paints the river silver. Not with shimmer, but with soft reflection. As if the water had begun to remember the sky again. Mist gathers just above the surface. Thin, pale veils, rising and folding, with each whisper of wind. The boatman lifts his head fully now. His hands grip the pole again. Not with effort, but with readiness. The kind that comes from habit, and from trust in the river's rhythm. He does not speak, but his posture says, yes, the day is coming. A few others stir. The old woman sighs in her sleep. The boy pulls the shawl tighter. The dog yawns, ears twitching, toward the sounds of waking birds. But no one rushes, because this is not yet morning, as the world knows it. Not the time of noise and work and motion. This is the light that comes before all that. The one that opens the day, without asking anything in return. A light without heat. A light that shows, but does not demand. That allows you to see, only as much as you're ready for. You look around, and for the first time, you see the banks again. Not sharply, but there. The shape of trees, the slope of land, a heron standing still in the shallows. You take it in, gently, without needing to name anything. This is the kind of light that lets things be, and in its calm, you begin to feel the shift inside you too. From watcher to waker, from dreamer to traveler. Still quiet, still soft, but ready. Now, light touches everything. The edges of the boat, the curve of the oar, the ripple of fabric at someone's shoulder. It is still early, but the quiet veil of night has been lifted. The world, it seems, was waiting just beyond the dark, folded neatly, held carefully. And now, it opens again. Not all at once, not with speed, like a scroll gently unfurled. A map rediscovered. A flower turning slowly to the sun. You begin to see color again. Not bright, but real. The reeds are green. The sand at the edge of the bank carries the faintest blush of gold. The river, now fully visible, shimmers in blue and silver. No longer shadow, but surface. Above, birds rise. Not in flocks. Just one. Then two. Then more. As if called quietly. By the morning air itself, the boy awakens, eyes blinking into the pale light. He doesn't speak. He simply looks around and smiles, without knowing why. The old woman offers him water. The dog stretches. The trader hums softly, a tune with no words. And the boatman, who never truly slept, guides the craft forward, toward the soft bend in the river, where the first full light of morning waits. You sit still. You're not in a rush, because after so much silence, so much gentle darkness, the unfolding feels sacred. This is not the return to noise, or burden, or timekeeping. This is the return to being, to breath, to the simplest act of noticing. And you notice it all. The glint of dew on a reed, the dip of a bird into the water, the soft warmth beginning to settle on your arms. The world unfolds, and you, quiet and whole, are part of it, as you always were, as you forgot for a while, as you remember now. And somewhere, just beyond the horizon, the day begins, gently, peacefully, without hurry. At first, you don't hear it, only the hush of river reeds, and the call of birds overhead. Then, faintly, a murmur, not sharp, not close, but steady, a texture in the air, not yet a sound. And then, as the boat rounds a soft bend in the water, you see it, smoke, rising in narrow curls, from a dozen low fires, tents pitched at angles along the shore. A slow scatter of people, some walking, some squatting, some simply standing still. The market has not begun, not fully, but it is waking. You see a woman brushing sand from a woven mat, a boy leading a donkey, its hooves soft against the packed dirt, a man hammering something gently, testing the shape of a copper pot. Against the morning silence, the mist still clings low to the ground, curling around baskets and bundles, softening outlines. You can barely tell where people end, and tents begin. Your boat eases toward the shore, and the river gives you one final nudge, as if to say, "This is as far as I go." The boatman raises his hand. Not a wave, not a command, just a gesture of arrival, a quiet offering, and you step off. The ground beneath you is not entirely solid. Your legs still remember the rhythm of water, but the earth holds you, nonetheless. You inhale, and what fills your lungs is not just air, but scent, spices, dust, smoke, baking bread, sun-warmed wool, something sweet and unfamiliar, on the edge of your senses. This is the first breath of the bazaar, before the clamor, before the haggling, before the music rises, and the noise becomes a living thing. This is the hush of potential, 1,000 lives preparing to open their stalls, lift their lids, show their wares to the sun. It is peaceful, it is alive, and you are here, before it all begins. The sun is still gentle, not high, not harsh. Its light lays itself across the earth, like a silk shawl, illuminating texture, not glare. And beneath that light, the market begins to take shape. You walk slowly, There's no need to hurry. Everyone else moves. With that same morning softness, a woman unrolls her carpets, one by one, each fold releasing a puff of dust, and the faint scent of wool and spice. Patterns bloom across the ground. Red, indigo, sand, ochre, like a garden that sleeps by night and awakens only for trade. You pause. Your fingers brush the edge of one. It's warm, textured, a little rough, but real. Next to her, a man arranges coins in careful rows. Some are smooth, worn nearly blank by passing hands. Others glint sharply, newer, with crisp edges and unknown kings stamped into their faces. He doesn't speak, just nods once. As your eyes pass over his display, there's a quiet understanding. In this place, no need for performance. Everything speaks for itself. Further on, a boy stacks bowls. Clay, cracked at the edges, mended with thin wires, or lined with melted resin. Not perfect, but loved. You pick one up. It fits in your palm. You imagine the soup it once held, the hands that once washed it clean, the kitchen firelight it reflected. At the end of some long ago day, around you, the market hums, not with noise, but with presence. Boots scuff in the dust. A goat bleats once. From behind a cloth screen, the snap of a tent flap in the breeze echoes like a drumbeat from another world. Everything here is old. Everything here is worn. And everything here is full of life. Because nothing in this market pretends to be eternal. It only needs to be useful, honest, familiar. A carpet for warmth, a coin for passage, a cracked bowl for holding something simple and good. You carry none of it with you, but you carry the feeling of hands in fabric, of sunlight on copper, of dust rising quietly. As the day unfolds, the crowd grows, but never rushes. There's a rhythm to their movement, slow, circular, unhurried, as if each person knows they'll be here a while, and nothing worth finding comes quickly. You begin to notice the faces. A man with deep smile lines and a crimson turban, pushing a cart of apricots, the fruit so ripe its scent perfumes the path behind him. A woman seated cross-legged, her veil light as breath, embroidering a strip of linen with such care that the thread seems to guide her fingers, rather than the other way around. A pair of children dart past, laughing, chasing a chicken that doesn't seem especially concerned. They weave between legs, and baskets, and shadows, like they've done this 1,000 times. Some faces are unfamiliar, strangers from distant places. You see someone with pale eyes, someone else with a lined face, burnished by desert sun. Their clothes don't match. Their languages shift like wind, but no one seems out of place. This is not a place for sameness. It is a place for meeting. You pass an old man with a thin flute. He plays just a few notes. Not for a crowd. Not for coins. Just because the morning asked for music. And you realize, the market isn't just a place for trade. It's a place to be seen. To sit. To pass through. To nod to a stranger. And find in that glance a brief and quiet kinship. You walk a little slower now. You aren't shopping. You aren't seeking. You're just here, among them. Another face, in the morning crowd. And that, somehow, feels like enough. It starts subtly. The quiet murmur beneath canvas. Soft words traded like coins. You duck beneath a low tent flap, where the sun is filtered through woven fabric, casting the world in gold and rust, and the scent of cinnamon and leather. Here, conversation is currency. Not loud, not urgent, but rhythmic. A seller leans forward, his hands gesturing in wide arcs, as he describes the origin of a spool of silk. He names a city you've never seen, on the edge of the mountains, where the air smells like fir trees, and the looms are carved from cypress. The buyer listens, not just with ears, but with nods, pauses, tilts of the head. They are not in a hurry. This is not just commerce. It is a kind of performance, a ritual. Nearby, a woman sells dried herbs. She does not speak often. She points, lets you crush a leaf between your fingers. Inhale its story. Mint, thyme, something bitter. For fevers, something floral. For dreams. The tents sway gently in the wind, and every flap that lifts reveals a new rhythm of voices. You hear laughter, quiet, knowing, shared, not from amusement, but from recognition. Old friends, returning buyers, a joke told every week. That still warms the space between two people. Children gather under one stall, trading pebbles and string, as if they were rubies and spice. They speak in fragments, made-up rules, half-words, and still, they understand each other completely. You sit for a moment, on a low stool, offered without words, just to listen to the rise and fall of stories being told in languages you do not know, and yet somehow you feel them, because beneath the tents, everyone is fluent, in tone, in gesture, in the soft cadence of trust and trade, and the market, no longer a place of things, becomes a place of voices, woven, like fabric, like song, like memory. Now the sun is no longer a whisper. It rests full upon your shoulders, soft but certain, casting long, golden shapes across the earth. The chill has lifted. The light is no longer hesitant, and the market, which began in mist and murmur, has bloomed into something whole. Vendors call out now, gently, not shouting, but their voices carry. You hear the clink of metal bowls, the rhythm of hands kneading dough, the flap of fabric as someone adjusts the canopy to shield their goods from the strengthening light. And yet still, the mood is not rushed. Even in its fullness, the morning moves with grace. You walk slowly. Your sandals brush against the dust that's now warm beneath your feet. A few coins jingle softly in a pouch, though you haven't spent them yet. You don't need to, because the memory of the morning will be enough to carry. You watch a girl fill a jug at the well. She pauses, looks up at the sky, and smiles at nothing in particular. Nearby, an old man falls asleep, in the shade of his stall, his head tucked gently between jars of honey and sesame. A cat stretches in a patch of sun. Its yawn is wide, its eyes half closed, as if even the animals understand that this morning belongs to no one in a hurry. And the scent, now thick and layered, spices, bread, warm stone, dust, fruit, fills your lungs, until even breathing feels generous. You don't need to speak. The morning speaks for you. It wraps itself around your shoulders, like a shawl. It hums against your skin, like a lullaby you didn't know you missed. This is not the start of a long journey. Not today. This is a moment to remain, to let the warmth settle, to let the light be enough. And for now, it is. The world is fully awake. But you remain still, just a little longer, resting in the warm weight of morning. The sun begins its descent. Not hurried, not sudden, just steady, as if it has done this every day, since the first road was laid. And maybe it has. The market is quieter now, not silent, not empty, but gentler. The rush has passed, the bargains made, the meals eaten, the songs, if any were sung, now rest in the dust. You walk slowly through the path you took this morning. though it looks different now. Warmer, softer, worn. The carpets have been rolled again, their colors dulled by use and shadow. The jars are sealed, the crates closed. The trader's eyes carry a quiet tiredness, not exhaustion, but that peaceful kind of weariness, earned by a full day. Dust hangs in the air, lit by the low sun, golden, fleeting, every particle suspended, like a memory too soft to hold. Children chase shadows now, instead of chickens, their games slower, their laughter fainter, still joyful, but wrapped in sleepiness. You see someone pouring water onto the steps outside their tent, trying to hold the heat at bay. It sizzles, evaporates, but for a moment, the ground is cool beneath bare feet. Even the animals are slower. The donkey that arrived with a bundle of wool now rests in the shade, eyes half-lidded, ears flicking only at the quietest flies. A cat stretches across a crate, paws tucked beneath its chest, grooming one ear, then the other, with a rhythm too lazy to rush. The sky begins to blush, pale pink at first, then amber, then something deep and soft, like apricot velvet. You pause to look up. The road stretches behind you, dusty and golden, worn with footprints and wheel tracks, some shallow, some deep. And ahead, the horizon, glimmering with heat still clinging to the earth, the edge of today, and the first breath of tomorrow. But for now, you don't need to move. This is the hour of stillness, of folding the day like a worn shawl, placing it beside you, and simply sitting, with dust at dusk. As the sun withdraws, small lights begin to bloom, not stars, not yet, but lanterns, soft circles of gold, hung from tent poles, hooked to low wooden beams, balanced on rocks, or simply cradled in the hands of those who sit beside the fire. They do not blaze, they do not flicker wildly, they glow, a warm kind of hush that hums in the corner of the eye, gentle, intentional, welcoming. The fire is kind, too, not piled high, not dancing in wild tongues, but burning with purpose. Coals, banked with care, a kettle set just so, a pan turned with practiced hands. The scent of the fire is not smoke alone. It carries bread, tea, a hint of cardamom and salt. You settle beside one such flame, drawn not by hunger, but by the quiet. Someone is telling a story. You don't know the words. They speak in a tongue that drifts like smoke, but you know the shape of it. It rises, then falls, pauses, then finds its rhythm again. And all around the fire, faces flicker softly, listening, half asleep, hands wrapped around clay cups, or tucked into shawls. A lantern swings slowly in the evening wind. Its light grazes the edges of someone's cheek, of a bowl, of a pair of sandals waiting beside the mat. The world, once wide and sunlit, has drawn inward, and that is not a loss. It is a return, a gathering in, a rest from distance, a warmth that is not heat, but presence. There is no need to speak. The fire says enough. Its voice is steady, its language old, older than trade, older than the road itself. It asks nothing. It only burns, quietly, so you don't have to. You sit still beside it, the lantern light on your knees, and breathe. Evening has arrived, not with thunder, but with the soft hush of lanterns and quiet fire. As the fire fades and voices quiet, you find yourself looking beyond the tents, toward the path again. The Silk Road, not paved, not marked with signs, but unmistakable to those who've walked it. It stretches into shadow now. The dust has settled. The traders have rested. And the carts are still beneath blankets and stars. But the road is still awake. Not in sound, but in presence. Like an old story, too well worn to forget. You walk a few steps away from the camp. Not far, just enough to stand, where the lanterns don't reach. And there, in the cool dark, you feel it. The weight of footsteps, the hush of wheels, the creak of wood, and the breath of beasts of burden, long gone. The road holds them all. It remembers every worn boot, every frayed strap, every whispered song, sung to pass the hours, between oasis and outpost. It is not proud, it is not loud, but it knows. It remembers silk, and salt, and jade, and grief. It remembers lovers parting. It remembers friendships made, in broken languages and shared bread. It remembers the child, too young to walk, carried beneath a shade of wool, and the elder who sat, too weary to rise, but still offered water to a stranger's horse. The road has no voice, but it hums with memory, and tonight, it holds your footsteps too, quiet, wandering, unhurried. You place your palm against the earth. It is still warm from the day, still alive, with all that has passed over it. And though you have traveled only a short way, the road accepts you. It folds you into its story, like a new thread, in a centuries-old tapestry. A part of it now, however briefly, however gently, because the road remembers everyone who has touched it. With care, you step lightly onto the soft, warm earth of the riverbank. The boat rests quietly behind you, cradled by the Nile's steady hands. A gentle breeze stirs the reeds, whispering a farewell only the river knows. Your footsteps trace a slow path away from the water's edge, each step measured, calm, as if reluctant to leave the river's embrace. Yet the current moves on beneath you, unseen, unceasing, carrying the stories, the silence, the rhythm of this journey forward. Though your body leaves the boat behind, the river flows inside you still. Its memory in the breath of wind, the warmth of the sun, the pulse beneath your feet. The Nile walks with you, always, through the turning of days and the quiet turning of your heart. And so you move onward, slow and steady, carrying water, time, and dreams upon your skin. You do not look back often. Only once, just enough. The boat, still rocking gently, grows smaller in the mist. Its outline softened by distance. Its shape folding into reeds, into sky. Until it becomes part of the morning itself. The river does not say goodbye. It never needed to. It simply continues, as it always has, carving through time with no urgency. No memory of arrival, no ache for destination. You walk forward, but something remains behind. A breath, a warmth, a slowness you did not know you carried. And in the hush between your steps, you hear it, the soft rhythm of water, keeping pace beside you. Soft music fades in, something like the hush of reeds and ripples under stars. And so, the journey drifts to its end. Not with arrival, but with a soft return to stillness. The Nile flows on, as it always has. A thread through history, through memory, through the quiet places in us all. Perhaps you will visit it again, in a dream, in a moment of silence, in the hush before sleep. Thank you for traveling slowly, for listening with quiet ears, and for letting the water carry you, wherever you are now. May your path be gentle, your breath steady, and your night full of peace. Fade to silence.